Welcome. Good morning. Craig here. Today I'm going to talk about how I create the title sequence for videos and tutorials that I put up on YouTube. I'm going to be showing you how to do this in After Effects. So this is what the title screen looks like right now that I use. And if I play it, you can see it's animated just a little bit. And it'll loop on there. So what I want to do is I want to create a brand new project, and we'll start from the beginning. This may take 2 or 3 videos, and I'll try to keep the videos to about 5 minutes a piece. So let's start with a new project. We'll go up under File, New Project. And you have your project window over here, and After Effects works kind of like an Illustrator or an InDesign if you're a graphic designer and you're used to working with those. And the reason I make the comparison is it works with what we call support files. That's an Illustrator file, and it's placed in here, but it really isn't part of the file. You just have a project file that After Effects uses to assemble video and type and color and vector pieces. So I'll start with setting up our screen and the size that we want everything. So when I work with YouTube, traditionally what they want to use is I want high resolution, and I will just use the size of my screen on my iMac. So if I go under Composition, we'll go to a New Composition, and that will create a composition inside of the project. And you can see that it defaults right now on an HD TV, and this is 1920 pixels by 1080, and that just happens to be the same size and the ratio, that's 16 by 9, that my iMac screen uses. So we'll stick with that. And I'm basically going to keep things simple, and I am going to use most of the settings they have in here. The duration that I have set right now is 3 minutes, and I'll keep that 3 minutes because that's the duration that I set for my title screen. I want my title screen to be branded like my brand, like I have on my website. And a brand will include things like your logo, typefaces that you'll use consistently across the brand, the colors that you use, design elements if you have borders or a blend or different things that you use. So I can begin to brand my title screen here with the brand color. Now this already picked it up from the previous one I was working on, but if I wanted to put any color in here, what I did is I have a sample of my hexadecimal color right here that I use on my website. So I simply type that in. 002E66 gives me my brand blue. Click OK. So now it will set up this first composition. I'll click OK. And now I have my 1920 by 1080, and that is my blue background. Now I simply have to add things to this. So the first thing I want to do, and remember this is where all of your files are housed right over here. The first thing that I want to do is I want to add my signature logo. So I'm going to go into File and into Import and File. Now I will go and I will find that signature logo. What I did, I'm going to hop over to Illustrator here. In Illustrator, I have, excuse me, I have my signature logo. It's vectorized, and if I take it out of preview, you can see that it's vectorized, but it's colored white. So it's white on basically no background, so it's going to be transparent because I want it to reverse out of the blue that I'm building in my background. So you can see I've made this quite large. This is a 2000 pixel file, 2000 by about 850. So I want to have enough information in there to be able to enlarge this or reduce it and it be nice and crisp on the edges. So I simply saved this as an AI file. You can see I named it CK Signature Logo White, and it's still a native Adobe Illustrator file. So let's hop back over here. You can see I'm bringing that in. Here it is, the CK Signature Logo White. Open that. And that will place it into the compositions area in my project. So what I want to do now is, in order to get this to appear on my, let me make this just a little bit larger, the timeline down here. In order to get it to appear in this composition, which will become my title screen, I have to simply click here, drag this down into my timeline, and release it. And now it will appear on here. And you can see that the pixels line up. This is a 1920 wide file size here and on the screen, and I set this up about 2000, so it's just a little bit over 2000. So I have this in my timeline. So now what I want to do is I want to grab a corner, and I'm going to hold my shift key down so I don't get something like this. Hold my shift key down, and I'm going to reduce it to about the size that I want it. And right now is when I'm starting to design, so I have to keep in mind how the rest of my brand looks. So I get this about where I want it, and I will go set it there. You'll notice that when I do enlarge this, it stays nice and crisp because it's a vector image in Illustrator. I initially tried this with a ping, and it was pretty choppy and kind of broken on the edges here. So the vector file works best in Illustrator. So I'll put this right here. So now I have one file on my timeline, and I need to add another one. So what I want to put in next is I have down below here I have educator, artist, and author. So I'm going to go up here to my T and click on type, and I'm going to click and drag right here to make a type box. And over here is where I can start to style my type. Now this also picked up on the previous one that I used, but the brand typeface that I use for my website is Roboto. So that already shows up. Regular is fine with me. The paragraph was centered. This was for something else I was working on. So I want this to be left aligned. So I click left aligned here under paragraph. This is all of your styling palettes over here. And now I will simply start typing and see how this looks. So all caps, author, space, option 8 for the bullet, artist, space, option 8 for the bullet, and what else am I? Oh, I did this wrong, sorry. Educator, space, not that it really matters, author and artist. I do like these to be in a certain order though. So I'm just copying and pasting like you would edit regular type. And we'll get rid of this part here. And now if I want, I can select all my type. I usually like it to tuck underneath here. So I can grab the slider here. It's at 50 pixels right now. And I'm just going to reduce it down until it fits underneath there. About right there. Looks like it turned out to be 41 pixels. And you can see the color already showed up in here as well. I have sampled this blue, which is another one of my brand colors. So this light blue I applied to here. All you'd have to do is click here, and you could type in another hexadecimal color or search for another color however you wanted to on the slider here. So this is a lighter blue and this is a bright white. So basically this is done. I'll click off here. Notice that when I clicked on the type here, it added it to my timeline down here. So both of these are in the timeline. I'm going to rearrange these. I like to do these sometimes in order. So I have the signature logo first, and then the type below that next. So first, let's start by animating these. So what I will do is I'll click on this little arrow right next to it here, and that will open up. Transform is in here. So I'll open up Transform. Now I have this logo selected. Now nothing is selected. If I click on the layer name, that will select it. So I go in the layer name, and now what I want to do is I want to look in my timeline. This is what we call kind of my scrubber here, where I can go through and see. Right now I've added these things to my timeline, but they're just solid. See, they go all the way across for my full 3 minutes. Both of these do. And that's okay to start with. But what I want to do is I want to add maybe an animation here where this gets a little bit larger like you saw it, and it also increases in opacity where it starts from just blue and then slowly builds to the white. So you can see under Transform, I have some basic things here. So with my scrubber, the timeline at the very beginning, I'm going to click on the little clock here next to opacity. And notice that that puts a little keyframe in here and shows me that I have an active keyframe right here. So I want the opacity to start at 0. So I'm going to just go right over top of my 100% and pull it all the way down to 0. Okay. Now I'm going to move my time line. We'll move it out to maybe 1 second here. And I'm going to, with the timeline and the scrubber right here, I'm going to click on this keyframe here. That will add another keyframe right here, and I'm going to bring my opacity back up to 100. So now you see if I scrub, it starts with nothing and increases the opacity as it moves through that. Now if I move the scrubber here back on the timeline, what I want to do is I want to click on scale as well. Click on scale, it'll put a keyframe in here, and I will see that this is really, really big. I want that to enlarge as we play through the title screen. So I'm going to, remember it was at 44.4, and I'm going to reduce it down, not all the way, maybe to like a 5, close to 5. We get about 5.4. Okay, and now I'm going to scrub over to the 1 second where I have the 100% opacity set up, and I'm going to click here to add a keyframe. That puts a keyframe in there, and I'll bring this back up to 44.4. Or pretty close to that. It looks like that's right there. So that's where it was. Now if I scrub through here, you'll see that this starts with basically no opacity and at a 5% size, and it will enlarge and slowly increase the opacity until it gets to the bright white. Now it looks kind of weird that that's just doing that by itself. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to do the same to this educator, artist, and author. So what I'm going to do is, under here where you have a parent, you can assign a parent to these objects. So what I'm going to do is on this one, I'm going to assign the parent, so it gives me a little list of everything. Obviously you can assign a parent to itself, so this is grayed out. But the other layer that it has here in the timeline is that signature. So if I click on here, now when I scrub back, it starts that at 0, and it slowly applies the same effect that I have here in the timeline to this. So I don't have to go through and add the effects to this one in order to, or I don't have to do twice the work is what I'm trying to say here. So all of the things that are applied to this now are going to apply to the type below. And let's just play this through with my space bar. It zooms in, and then it will stay there for the rest of the time. So we'll play this through a few times and you see how that works. Pretty nice. Okay, hit my space bar again to stop. So let's pause here, and this will wrap up our first part of the tutorial. The next part we'll get into adding the type down here and having those two pieces fade in as well. Thank you. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. And if you'd like to see more tutorials here, I also have a lot of tutorials over on craigkuntz.com. So go there and check out tutorials on graphic design, woodworking, and web design. Thank you.